Hello Army, welcome back to my channel. I want to start today by reading you 3 names. Kendrick Lamar, Drake, ParkJimin. Now I want you to sit with those 3 names for a second and think about what they have in common, because on the surface the answer is not obvious. Kendrick Lamar is the Pulitzer Prize-winning rapper from Compton, California, the most critically acclaimed hip-hop artist of his generation, the man who just had one of the most talked-about rap beefs in the history of the genre and came out the undisputed winner. Drake is one of the best-selling music artists of all time, a Canadian rapper and singer with more Billboard chart entries than almost any artist in the history of that institution, someone whose commercial dominance in the American music industry has been essentially uninterrupted for over a decade. And ParkJimin is a Korean singer from Busan who has been systematically dismantling every barrier that ever existed between K-pop and the mainstream American music market, one historic certification and one record-breaking chart position at a time. What do these 3 men have in common? The answer, as of right now, is something specific and something extraordinary. They are the only 3 artists in the world who have a solo song in the top 10 best-selling songs in the United States. Just those 3. Out of every artist on the planet, out of every genre, out of every country, out of every generation of music making, those are the 3 names that appear on that list with solo material in the top 10. And the fact that Jimin is one of them, the fact that a Korean solo artist sits on that list alongside the 2 most commercially dominant forces in American hip-hop, is the kind of thing that should make everyone who cares about music stop and pay attention. But that is only the beginning of what we are talking about today. Because the Hits Daily Double chart story is actually just one piece of a much larger picture of what Jimin has built in the American music market, and the full picture is something that requires context and care to properly understand. So let us go through all of it. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you are going to have a completely new appreciation for the scale of what ParkJimin has accomplished in America. Not just as a K-pop artist. As an artist, full stop. But first, if you are new here, welcome to this channel. We are your home for everything BTS, everything ARMY, and every piece of analysis that helps us understand the full significance of what these 7 men have built. Subscribe, hit that notification bell, and let us talk about ParkJimin and what he has done to the American music industry. So let us start with the Hits Daily Double chart, because for anyone not already familiar with it, some context is important. Hits Daily Double is one of the most respected trade publications in the American music industry. It is not a fan chart. It is not a social media engagement ranking. It is used by music industry professionals to track commercial performance across multiple metrics including streaming, sales, radio airplay, and revenue generation. The annual Hits Daily Double chart ranks artists by their commercial performance in the United States market across a full year, and Jimin has entered this chart at number 28, generating $1.8 million in revenue in less than 6 months. $1.8 million. In under 6 months. And the position this earned him, number 28 on the annual Hits Daily Double chart, makes him the most profitable K-pop artist on that ranking and one of the highest earning artists in the American music industry right now. Full stop. Not the highest earning K-pop artist in a K-pop specific subcategory. One of the highest earning artists in the entire American market, measured by the same revenue metrics that apply to every genre, every artist, every commercial performer in the country. And the company he keeps on that chart, specifically Kendrick Lamar and Drake as the only other artists with solo songs in the American top 10, tells you everything about the tier in which the American music industry is now placing ParkJimin. Now let me give you the full context of how Jimin arrived at this position, because the chart number is the result of a body of work and a trajectory that has been building for years and that deserves to be understood as a whole rather than as a series of isolated statistics. In April 2023, Jimin made history when Like Crazy debuted at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, making him the first South Korean soloist to top that chart and the first solo BTS member to reach number 1. That was not just a K-pop milestone. That was a music industry milestone. The Billboard Hot 100 is the definitive American singles chart, and topping it as a Korean solo artist without the full promotional machinery of a Western major label behind you was something that had genuinely never happened before. Jimin did it in his first solo album Week. He did it with a song sung primarily in Korean. And he did it against the full competitive field of every other artist releasing music in America that week. He had also made history earlier that same week when Set Me Free PT2 debuted at number 30 on the Hot 100, making him the first BTS member to score an unaccompanied solo top 40 hit on that chart. 2 historic Hot 100 milestones in the same chart week. From his debut solo album. That was the moment that anyone paying attention to the American music industry should have understood that something different was happening with Jimin. Not just different for a K-pop artist. Different, period. Then came Who. And Who is where the story goes from impressive to genuinely historic. Who debuted at number 1 on both the Billboard Global 200 and the Billboard Global Exclude US charts, making Jimin the second BTS member to top both charts as a soloist, following Jungkook. Who spent 33 weeks on the Billboard Hot 100, a figure that represents extraordinary longevity for any song in the current streaming era, and accumulated over 450 million US streams, the most for any K-pop solo music in that market. 33 weeks. More than 8 months. In a music landscape where the average song falls off the Hot 100 within 4 to 6 weeks if it does not have sustained radio support, Who stayed for 33. That is not ARMY streaming. That is organic American listener engagement sustaining a song week after week after week. That is the American market choosing to keep listening. Jimin also became the first solo K-pop artist to accumulate over 6.5 billion total Spotify streams, and his album Muse hit a major 3.7 billion streaming milestone, marking the fastest success achieved by any Korean album on that platform. 6.5 billion total streams as a solo artist. That number represents every song Jimin has ever released as a solo act, every play on every platform combined, every time any listener anywhere in the world pressed play on something bearing his name as the primary artist. 6.5 billion. And that number is still climbing. His Who track alone surpassed 2.4 billion Spotify streams as of May 2026, becoming the first solo song by an Asian artist without a featured guest act to reach this milestone. Without a featured guest. That detail matters enormously because it tells you that the commercial performance of Who is not being supplemented by the fanbase of a Western collaborator or boosted by association with a more established name in the Western market. It is Jimin's song, Jimin's voice, Jimin's artistry, performing at 2.4 billion streams purely on its own merits. And it currently sits at number 37 on Spotify's all-time most streamed songs list, sitting alongside songs that have had decades of radio play and promotional support behind them. Now let us bring all of this back to the Hits Daily Double chart and what it means that Jimin sits at number 28 on it alongside Kendrick Lamar and Drake. Because I think to fully appreciate the significance of that company, you need to understand what each of those names represents in the current American music landscape and why being grouped with them specifically is meaningful. Kendrick Lamar is not just a commercial artist. He is an artist whose work has been recognized by the Pulitzer Prize Committee, who won 5 Grammy Awards in a single night in 2026, and whose Not Like Us became one of the most culturally dominant singles of the past several years. His presence on American charts is backed by decades of critical credibility, cultural authority, and a fanbase that spans every demographic in America. When Kendrick Lamar charts, it is because America, all of America, is listening. Drake and Kendrick Lamar are among the artists whose records regularly top American sales and streaming charts alongside BTS, SZA, Bad Bunny, and Morgan Wallen. These are not niche performers or genre specialists. These are artists who operate at the center of American popular culture. And Jimin is on the same list. With a solo song. Generated in under 6 months. Earning $1.8 million in revenue from the American market alone. In a country that has historically been one of the hardest markets in the world for any non-English language artist to crack commercially. And he is there not because of a one-time viral moment or a strategic collaboration with a Western superstar or a single radio hit that overperformed its projections. He is there because he has built a catalog of commercially dominant music in the American market over 3 years, each release building on the last, each certification adding to the foundation, until the cumulative commercial weight of what he has created has placed him in the company of the 2 biggest commercial forces in American hip-hop. The image that started this conversation, the one showing Kendrick Lamar, Jimin, and Drake as the only 3 artists with solo songs in the American top 10 bestsellers, is one of those images that will look very different in 10 years than it does today. Because in 10 years, When people look back at the history of K-pop's penetration of the Western music market, they are going to identify a handful of specific moments and specific data points that marked the turning point where the conversation shifted from K-pop as an impressive international phenomenon to K-pop as a genuine part of the mainstream American music landscape. And Jimin sitting at number 28 on the Hits Daily Double chart alongside Kendrick and Drake, in the same year that he is headlining the FIFA World Cup final halftime show alongside Madonna and Shakira, is one of those turning points. The milestone described in the image is also specifically historically significant in the context of a decade of K-pop's American journey. The post states that Jimin is the first K-pop solo artist in 10 years to enter the Hits Daily Double annual chart at a position this high. 10 years. That is not a recent record being broken by a small margin. That is an entire decade of the K-pop industry growing, expanding, accumulating global popularity and commercial success, and in all of that time no single solo act had penetrated the American market at the revenue-generating level that Jimin has now reached. He did not just break a record. He cleared a ceiling that had not been touched in 10 years. And what does this mean for what comes next? Because context matters here too. The Arirang World Tour is currently running. The FIFA World Cup final halftime show is 2 months away. Jimin will be performing on the most watched broadcast in human television history on July 19th alongside two of the most iconic names in Western pop music. The exposure that performance will generate for his existing catalog, for Who and Like Crazy and every other commercially certified song he has released, is going to be unlike anything any K-pop solo artist has ever experienced in terms of Western mainstream visibility. And Jimin's catalog is already performing at a level that places him on the same revenue chart as Kendrick and Drake before that exposure happens. The Hits Daily Double chart number is a snapshot of a trajectory. It is not the ceiling. It is a data point along a path that is still going up. An army who have been watching that path from the beginning, who have been present for every historic chart entry and every RIA certification and every streaming record and every Billboard milestone that has accumulated into the commercial portrait of Jimin that the American music industry is now being forced to reckon with, know that the snapshot is going to look very different 6 months from now. After the FIFA stage. After the Arirang Tour continues through every major American market. After a world that is about to see ParkJimin for the first time on the most watched broadcast they will ever tune into finally understands what ARMY has always known. He belongs there. He has always belonged there. And the chart is just finally catching up. If this video gave you all the Jimin commercial supremacy content you needed today, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe because we are going to be here for every chart update, every certification, every milestone as it comes. Drop a comment and tell me which Jimin American chart moment has been the most personally meaningful to you. Was it Like Crazy at number 1? Was it Who on the Hot 100 for 33 weeks? Was it this Hits Daily Double moment? I want to know which one made you feel it most. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one, and as always, purple you.